our office hours. Exciting to be here. I think it's my first big office hours with y'all. Thank you very much for those that submitted slides for this afternoon session, highlighting some of those strengths that your councils have identified mastery level in. Feeling that this is going to be a really good opportunity for folks to get some lessons learned, ask some questions in areas that they may not have scored as high within their councils, and being able to learn from one another. So we've got 3 great presentations queued up for today. I have all the presentations open. Would folks like me to run the slides? I'm seeing some heads nodding. Okay, perfect, cool. I can pull those up. And then we will do the presentation. I'm going to ask some questions, and then we'll go on to the next one and then have any open discussion afterwards for any other questions, comments folks might have. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Well, Dr. Carter's going to kick it off for us today.
All right,
so
let's go.
And get those slides for you. One moment here.
It's been a long day. This is the last bit of energy I have left.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully we won't zap it all out of you. Okay, 1 second here. Let me go ahead. You just let me know when to advance.
Let's go. So good afternoon, everyone. Should I start?
Yeah.
We only have 10 minutes, so I'm not long-winded, but I just wanted to provide a brief overview of who DABO is and what we do and how we interact with our community. My name is Dr. Carolyn Carter, and I work with DABO on a lot of fronts and participate in everything, wear many hats, as well as being over the Disparities Council. But everything that you will see that I'll talk about, either participating in, and help initiate it as we talk about the organization. So just wanted to show you who we are. DABO was founded by Horace Sheffield Jr. That's him. He is very politically active in politics and in UAW and everything. Of course, you see him here with Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy. So he was very, very involved with our community when he started this organization that's over 50 years old now. Next. And just a little bit about our vision and who we are and how we connect with our community, what we do, and how we build the bridges with all communities that we serve here in Detroit. Next. When we're talking about how we help our community is one of the sustainabilities. These are just some images, and I'll do this going throughout. I'm not going to read the slides to you, but I'll just kind of give you an overview of what they are. We have a few food distribution that we do monthly, where people come and they get a huge box of food that we pass out to our community. We try to provide educational opportunities. We have a collaboration with Wayne County Community College District where we offer skilled trades, and we have many students who have completed those programs. And we have a tech hub where students and seniors can come in and they can use our equipment to do their resumes or print things or whatever it is that they need. So that's just some of the ways that we help our community. Next slide. And these are some of our strengths when we're talking about giving back to our Detroit community with our COVID and with our advancement in health. We had the opportunity to participate with Pfizer to educate the community about ATTR-CM, which is a heart defect, which is something I had never heard about, but I really got immersed in it and got, as a facilitator of it, we did it during one of our radio shows, and we had audience participation, and people learned about this disease that can be detected through carpal tunnel, which was very, very interesting. And so we provide these opportunities for our community so that they learn how they can help manage their health and what they need to do. We have a collaboration with Walgreens that we spend monthly events with them through during our radio broadcasts, and they come and they do immunizations, and people participate. They come, they get their immunizations. They often run out because so many people show up, and it starts at 6 in the morning. So people come out, and so it's a great opportunity to share what our strengths are, but to provide those services to the communities that we serve. Next slide. Our strategic vision, of course, is facilitated and driven by our CEO, Reverend Horst Sheffield. The third, you see a picture of him. That's the building. We have a collaboration now, our Bridge Center, which is down the street, where we offer all kinds of opportunities. It's a rental space. We have, and you'll see in a subsequent slide, what we call our community empowerment series, where we have different speakers come, famous people, they come. It's free. All of these services are free. And they come and they listen, and they buy books from the speakers, and they provide a plethora of information. And every event that DABO has, they have the opportunity to get tested. We focus on their hypertension. We focus on their blood pressure. We focus on providing them with all kinds of healthcare opportunities. So every event, even when we just recently had our Hallow Eve event, where we provided, we had a bouncy house and things for kids to come and get Halloween candy. But we had a station set up for, as those parents, the kids were playing in the bouncy house, we had the parents come over and they could get their blood pressure checked, or they could find out about our Blueprint for Wellness program. So those are things that we provide as sticking to our strategic mission of DABO and how it began with providing opportunities to the community. Next slide, please. When we talk about collaborations, these are just some of the things that we have done and continue to do. Of course, we have collaboration with comedians. As you can see, our comedian there. We focus on hypertension and getting your blood pressure checked. We had a collaboration with Moderna, where they had a CT scanning bus. We had it on our parking lot. We did that twice this year, and people came and got free chest CT scanning. We also had a wave project where people came and homeless people or people who didn't have water, they got to come and take a shower. We have what's called Premier Quality Healthcare. It's a clinic within DABO, and people come. They get free services from immunizations to blood pressure check to references and referrals to hospitals. We had a huge panel about birthing and mothers called Staying Alive, and we had a panel of experts that came and talked about that. And in that, we provide healthy food. We talk about managing expectations about how to deal with healthcare providers, especially in this new paradigm moving forward, and how we can help our community stay alert and manage their own care. Next slide, please. Leadership. This is something that we focus on, not just for staffing, but ensuring that the programs and the things that we provide helps manage and drive our progress. Stop the Suicide is a project we have with now award-winning actress Erica Alexander. So she comes to DABO every now and then, and she was just here maybe a few months ago after she won her Oscar. Also, DABO was one of the winners of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Culture Award, and that's because of the work we've done in the community around healthcare. So we had a big event with that, with Pearl Melvis Blue Notes came and they sang. This was all at the Brit Center. And so we try to lead by example and showing people who we are and what we can do. Next slide, please. In terms of communication, we try to be intentional. We have what's called the Wake Up Call. It's a radio show that's every Saturday morning from 8 to 10. And we have a variety of guests on there that are informative. They provide resources. The audience gets to participate. And then we have the monthly McKinsey Noble sessions. These are virtual, where they will provide all kinds of resources and information about the programming that DABO uses to ensure that the community is informed around healthcare and the disparities and other challenges that involve our community and our families. So this is a weekly show. You can tune into it. You can come and sit in. They serve a hot breakfast. They call it salmon grits, salmon grits and salmon croquets and grits. So it's a great, we have so many guests on it. Last week, it was Roland Martin, and it's somebody different every week. So it's a great opportunity to participate in that. Next slide. When we're talking about evaluation and return on investment, it's about our community. It's about what we do and how we give back, and ensuring that people are aware of what resources are available and how we can effectively ensure that our community is getting what they need. And we evaluate that by their responses, by how they respond to us, by what we get in terms of not just the partners, the churches that we work through our Choose Healthy Life initiative, but through our other programs and through our other collaborations and partnerships. And so we gauge that by what they say, what they need, and how we can help them. Again, our Premier Quality Health that provides resources to those people. The bottom picture is an event at the Bridge Center. That's the audience. We were sitting in the audience participating. That's it used to be a library, the Gabriel Bouchard Library in Detroit, and DABO took it on, and there are going to be some expansions to it. They're going to have a radio and TV studio where people can come and do podcasts and create their own shows, and just moving forward in the space and ensuring that we are always intentional with our community and helping them learn, grow, and be more intentional about taking care of themselves. Next slide. When we're talking about capacity, again, these are flyers from our community empowerment speaker series. The people that we've had, a variety of topics, all political, community, social spectrum. This past fall, we had an event with Van Dyke's Men's Clothes where we provided suits to the men in the community. We provided over 1,000 suits. They got a suit, tie, shirt, belt, and socks. And it was an all-day event that we partnered with them. So we do things like that to ensure that we are strengthening our partnerships and providing resources to our community. Next slide, please. In terms of effectiveness, again, we try to be intentional with what we do with our community. These are just some of the slides that flyers that we've had. Our Juneteenth program, which was a lunch and learn, that was another opportunity where we got to feed the community, but they had it was an educational program, just telling what Juneteenth was, but also using that as an opportunity to help those who need health care. We had vaccinations that day. We had blood pressures that day. So we always do that at all of our events. We have our turkey giveaway coming up. That was last year's flyer. And again, our vaccinations clinic with Walgreens that happens once a month from 6 a.m. to 10. It was this morning. So just making sure that what we do is intentional and that we are effective in helping our community, engaging what we can do and continuing to do that. Next slide, please. Our practicality and our relevance. We understand that we have communities that are in need. With our FAN project, that's Families Against Narcotics, we try to be intentional with what's going on in our communities and providing them with opportunities to have resources for other things that also include addictions, AIDS, and different things like that. And they get all these services through our Premier Quality Health Care Clinic. as well as, again, our McKinsey Noble Collaborative, where we provide other resources, not just around health, but managing your finances as well. Next slide. Again, our resources are diverse. Our food distribution, our monthly food distribution, and now DABO has bingo every Thursday, 4:30 to 9:30 at the Bridge Center. We are the only organization in Detroit that has bingo. Again, it's another opportunity to provide them with, we use every opportunity that we have to share our resources with people. They can get their blood pressure checked at DABO. We try not to feed them too much fried chicken and ensure that they have a good time, but also know that the resources that DABO provide are available to them. And that will be it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. And sorry about the presenting. I have two screens, so it was showing
That's okay.
all of everything. So I will try to fix that for the next group here. But any questions for Dr. Carter?
We do a lot. But it's fun work. I mean, it's fun, it's intentional, it's engaging, it's hard work, but everything that we do it with the community in mind. And that was just a snippet of something. Some things I didn't even put on there because, it's not a lot to talk about in 10 minutes, but you can't cover everything. But we do things with teens, with young adults. So we have other programs too. Our Blueprint for Wellness, where people can come and get their blood pressure, get their blood taken, and get a diagnostic test printout of over 80 tests that a person would normally pay for. We do that for free.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Well, just in the interest of time, maybe we can get all presentations done and then open it back up. Sorry to kind of double back on that. So thank you, Dr. Carter.
You're welcome.
And Brian Hartle, Kent County Health Department, is up next. Brian, let me get your presentation in the correct format here for you. Just a moment.
Thanks, Cassie. That's amazing work, Dr. Carter. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Amazing work that you do over there in Detroit. Thank you for all you do. Thanks, Cassie, for bringing that up.
It looks like it's sharing the same way on my end. Does it look
There you go.
notes?
It's good now.
Okay, yay. Okay, good. All right. I'm going to mute myself. Take it away, Brian.
All right, thanks again. So we in Kent County, our Health Equity Council Sustainability Self-Assessment showed that we achieved mastery in the area of resource diversification. So just kind of want to give you an overview of how that all came to be here in Kent County. So go ahead and take it to the next one, Cassie. I just want to kind of set the foundation for this in terms of, the Kent County Health Department serves as the backbone organization or part of the convening support for our Health Equity Council. And really, we started kind of laying this foundation for resource diversification a long time ago. Back in 2018, our health officer, Adam London, sort of developed a small division here in the health department called the Center for Community Health Strategy. And actually that's where Cassie was before moving on to U of M Health West. And so we really focused on implementing the recommendations of Public Health 3.0. So really kind of having that role of the chief health strategist, building cross-sector collaborations, and then really exploring ways to fund, all of that work. And I have to give props to Cassie because, back in the day when she was here, she was really an advocate for finding ways to compensate community members. I mean, she came to me when I first started being a division director here, wanting to find ways. Throughout COVID, we saw, opportunities where people were providing information in their lived experience and not getting compensated for it. So she was really pushing, how can we do this? How can we find funding to support these individuals and compensate them for their time? So we were already kind of looking into this, back then, even before the Health Equity Council opportunity came along. We had a COVID vaccination planning group that we convened, through COVID, and we were kind of to transition it to other health conditions. and we're just really trying to find opportunities to support them through funding. So we're kind of investigating a lot of things. So I just want to say that it wasn't all, you know, done in the last 2 years as the Health Equity Council. It was really established well before that, and that kind of idea of always looking for funding to do that kind of work and compensate individuals really started before this opportunity came down the pike. So go to the next one, Cassie. So I just want to kind of remind everyone how we're structured. Our Health Equity Council, I mentioned our convening support. So it's Health Department along with the Hispanic Center of Western Michigan, who kind of provides that backbone support. And we really have different work groups within that convening support, where one of them is actually an advocacy, sustainability, and policy work group. So that work group also is really always talking about, you know, how do we find funds to move this work forward. So it's always kind of at the front of our mind as to what we can do to support this work. And our advisory board too, we just developed that within the past year. We used to have what we call systems level or systems group meetings, where we would bring health systems and funders and community members and educational systems and all these, the bigger systems level group to a meeting on a quarterly basis, and kind of having them be there to support the Health Equity Council, bringing resources to the table and things like that. After a great start in January 2023, it kind of fizzled off, and so we were seeing less attendance there. So we ended up creating this advisory board. So kind of in the same vein as that. So we wanted to bring representatives from health systems and different sectors of the community to really support and bring resources to the Health Equity Council work. So that's another thing we kind of have in place. They meet on a quarterly basis. And we always kind of talk about sustainability. How do we bring more funds to the work that we do? So go to the next one, Cassie. And so we really started kind of seeking out funding. Even when we first got notification of our Health Equity Council award, we knew that it was just guaranteed for 1 year. And we knew this is something that in that Center for Community Health Strategy, we wanted to keep going, for as long as we could. The health department was committed to providing staff to the effort, but we really wanted to focus on how can we continue to support compensating community-based organizations, community members for their participation in the council. So even before we actually started gathering as a Health Equity Council in October 2022, we started kind of having conversations with our local funders. So the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, we were able to make some connections there. Had an initial conversation with them in June of that year. Our first systems meeting, like I said, in January 2023, we had representatives from W.K. Kellogg, attend that session and learn more about what we did and kind of see, the energy behind the Health Equity Council initiation there. And then we had a couple more follow-up meetings with them, and they ended up providing us with a large pool of funding that covered 2 18-month periods. Like it was a total of $400,000. $200,000 each 18-month period, just because they, kind of learned what we did, supported the work that we did, and really wanted to focus on providing money to organizations that are involved in the council to help support those community-based organizations in the Health Equity Council work. So we were very fortunate there, and they just kind of presented it to us. They're like, here's something to think about, and then they presented us with the opportunity. We're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this! Like they're giving us $400,000. So one of the main things that they wanted is that it didn't come to the health department. They wanted the money to go to a community-based organization to serve as a fiduciary. So our partnership with the Hispanic Center really kind of helped us along with this. So they were the fiduciary for this grant from the Kellogg Foundation. So it supported their staff to be part of the Health Equity Council work. A good portion of that money goes to supporting mini grants. It also supports our meetings, like, how hard it is to get federal funding to support food for meetings. So all of our food for conferences and meetings comes out of this Kellogg Foundation funding. And that's a really nice thing about it. It's very flexible. They just kind of said, whatever you need to do with it, go ahead and do with it. And so that has been really nice to just be able to support some of those different things that sometimes the other funding is not able to do. And as I mentioned before, contractual, it was a kind of a requirement of the funding is that we really look to support other organizations and community members. So all of our funding that goes to community members for their participation, as well as CBOs, comes out of this W.K. Kellogg Foundation funding for the council. Next one. And so again, we kept looking for alternative sources of funding, even at the beginning of this work. And so we talked about the Michigan Health Endowment Fund, and that was always kind of something on our radar to see what we could do with that. And so we did submit an application to the Michigan Health Endowment Fund in February 2023. And again, as I mentioned before, we really want to focus on maintaining the ability to compensate community members, and that was what we did with that funding. So we're granted 2 years of funding from them. They usually typically do like $150,000 over the course of 2 years. So we got 2 years of funding, $75,000 each year. And then we got notification of that award in May. And then because of our budget year, in terms of how we started budget year in October for the health department, we pushed that funding back until October of 2023 to start that. So we, as I mentioned before, it started kind of just, the funding started coming in from multiple sources, which was a good problem to have. But because of that, we didn't really use this Michigan Health Endowment funding for compensating community members, because it was just complicated, because we couldn't pay community members from the health department. So we were using Hispanic Center to pay them, and if they would pay them, then they would invoice us and we would reimburse them. And it was just easier once they got the W.K. Kellogg Foundation money to take on that role and just use that to support community compensation. So we were kind of stuck with this Health Endowment Fund money to, now what do we do with it? So we're like, hey, we can use it to support mini grants. That's a great idea, because we've seen the impact and the benefit of that. So we went to them and said, hey, we want to switch this around and switch this money to mini grants. But they said, no, we can't really do that. It's not that easy, because that's more of a community impact award versus the capacity building award that we had gotten initially. So if we did that, I'd have to go back to the board and get approved and all that kind of stuff. So they recommended that we submit another application for a community impact award to support our mini grants, and then find something else to do with our capacity building grant. So essentially, we got 2 awards from them. The first one that they maintained it, they're like, we don't want to take the money back. They just said, you got the money for the capacity building grant, keep it, give us an application to do something different with it. And then they funded us with a community impact award for the mini grant. So again, we were very fortunate there to get 2 Health Endowment Fund awards for them. And then like I said, we revised that capacity building work plan to cover some health department staff costs. So we're able to sort of supplant the money that we got from MDHHS and able to make that money go a little further. We're doing more capacity building within the CBOs, because if you remember, we talked about how the CBOs in our Health Equity Council were really instrumental in gathering data for our last community health needs assessments. So they were out in the community gathering surveys from their community members, but now we really want to build their capacity to use that data. So how can we train them to get them to utilize that data for them to go off and use that for grant funding and things like that. So we're going to use some of our capacity building to train our CBOs in data use, and then also kind of bringing our Health Equity Council together to do more of a systems change, collective impact type of training to really build capacity there to work together better to serve our community. So go on to the next one. And so I'll just kind of just finish up by kind of recommendations, the next step. So obviously I mentioned our sustainability policy and advocacy work group that continues to meet on a monthly basis to talk about how we continue this work and bring in new funding. W.K. Kellogg Foundation representative serves on that advisory board that I mentioned before. So they're meeting quarterly with us and kind of hearing what the Health Equity Council is doing, and hopefully we can keep them on our radar to possibly support us down the road. And then we've done a lot of work with our CHNA CHIP and connecting with health system implementation plans to give feedback to them, and hoping that as they move forward and identify ways to support the communities that in their implementation plans, that they might have some funding to support some of the Health Equity Council work as well. So we're just kind of always thinking of ways to really get different tools of funding to support our work. Some recommendations, I guess, for you all is just make friends with your local funders. I know there's foundations, across the state. Just a phone call, an introduction, that kind of really was where it started with us. And so we were able to continue that relationship and just allow them to come into our work and see what we did, and they liked it, and so they continue to support that. The Health Endowment Fund is out there. They're always willing to connect with you just to set up an initial meeting to kind of hear what you have, your ideas. You don't actually have to, submit a proposal right away. You can just, connect with them and just have that meeting. And they'll say, yeah, we're interested in hearing more, or, go ahead and submit a proposal. So that's a good, first step, to meet with them. And then integrating with other initiatives, like I said, with the health system implementation plans. A lot of communities are doing social determinant of health hubs. Here in Kent County, we're doing one of those. So that's kind of bringing other ways to support this work going forward, and integrating with that. And so that's been one of our strategies too, is really trying to find things to connect with within our communities to really, continue this work as we move forward. So I think that's my last slide. Cassie? Nope, there you are.
Yep, it is. Awesome.
So thanks for that opportunity to just kind of like tell our story about what we've been doing with resource diversification.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm sure there's probably going to be some good questions for you and Dr. Carter so far. So thank you for that and for some of those recommendations as well. I'm going to get my screen ready to share for Joyce to talk a little bit about some of the mastery that folks in Saginaw have found. So one moment, please.
All right. While she's getting it together, it's very interesting. It's always good to listen to other communities and how they do things, because as we're created, our existence is so much different than what both of the other two presentations we've just heard. I'm the little contracted staff person who supports the Health Equity Council, and I'm housed here when I like to be in the health department. I work out of home quite a bit. And the idea is that is to convene the community together to get this started when we started in 22. One of the things I want to say is that I think one of the reasons they hired me, I'm a former mayor of my city, and I'm currently a co-pastor at my church, and I'm on the school board currently, and I hold many positions in this community in a leadership capacity. My father was a pastor for 50 years. All that does is it gives me the ability to go out and reach my tentacles into the public and to a lot of arenas to bring people together. And when they hired me, that's exactly what I did. And so as we put all of everything together here, we pull these almost about 50 people from our community. And the only paid staff person is myself, and we have 6 community members who are given a stipend monthly, but everybody else that come to the table, from the CBOs to the individuals come to the table, they are all volunteers, and they are faithful about coming to our meetings and our subcommittee meetings, and they really help pull some things together that seem actually impossible to do. In fact, we pulled together 11 focus groups as we initially started out, so that we could pull together different perspectives from our community about why things were happening in our community. And we divided our efforts into 3 areas. Obesity, we had an obesity task force, as well as maternal and infant care, and substance abuse and mental health. Those are our 3 buckets that we identified from our focus groups, and we put a plan of action together, and we put strategies together, and we're grateful for that. And we're happy that our health department and the many agencies, which we call BWAL in Saginaw, and that has all of the organizations in Saginaw County, your hospitals, of course, the health department, mental health, the school districts, the ISD. We have some major community agencies. All of them are at one table, and it's called BWAL. And what they've done, the information that we glean from our focus groups and our presentation that we made to them about our findings, has been integrated into the Saginaw County plan. It has been integrated. And so as we look at it, in fact, Tracy's on the line and she can chime in here anytime, but what we've done is align the county goals and objective along with what we have gleaned from our documentation. And also now we have a new grant that we're also gleaning. So we brought everything together, and hopefully we're trying to do systems change in our community with this effort. With all that having been said, please go to the next slide. this is the results. Okay. This is the results of the surveys we took from our HEC. And I was absolutely shocked because I did not see that they thought we had mastered several things here. I would have moved them all down. It's different. Our perspective of things is different than the people around that table. Which, you know, I'm happy that they saw it from this. I thought we really had a long way to go to get to the mastery level in trying to assess our sustainability efforts and our ability to move forward. And I said, well, you know, what are the reasons why we're able to be able to have these results that you see? We have two areas where we have two. One is communication. Well, I'll show you that on their responses. And also the other one is efficiency and effectiveness. And then lastly, of course, is resource diversification. I agree wholeheartedly with them that we at pre-awareness, we're working to get out of that area. And this assessment kind of brought us to the realization that that's an area that we were not working on. We were plugging in there, doing the work, trying to change the community, but we weren't looking for dollars to sustain our efforts, okay? So you can go on to the next slide. And then this is what people said. We try to capture what people said, but I shortened them. You can go on to the next slide. I shortened them and tried to consolidate them in some short form. I didn't do all you guys got all those fancy skills. I don't have that. Just know how to get it done, okay? But one of the things that the people said, and I believe that's why we had the responses we did, people thought that if you look down, I think it's number third bullet, diversity. We do have a good mix of community parts at the table. I promise you, everybody that needs to be there is there, except we still need some youth, but we meet during the day, so that's, you know, still a difficulty. And we do have some of the populations who have lived experience at the table. We have some there, and we have gone to extreme efforts to include a representation of those who represent some community groups. That's very important. Now, the one thing about it, which have them take ownership, they help create the vision and the plans, and they've helped us to evaluate those plans. And our people, I think, know the community. And that's one thing we've been good about, is we have people around the table who understand this community, and they bring skills to the table. We have done a good job of taking people who have skills, who have writing skills, organizational skills. We have people who worked out at Dow Corning and was their marketing a manager out there for Dow Corning and work at the state level and all of these things. They're sitting at the table. And so when we need things done, we don't go to outsiders. We give them a consultant fee and let them help us. We let them take some ownership for what has to happen. We have people from the university who sit at our table who help us. We have Dr. Pruitt, who is our county medical director, who sits at our table, who helps us with things that we need to do. And of course, you know, this is from their perspective, which I thought was, they saw this, that my position in the community, and I do have a deep understanding of this community from various standpoints. And with my proven history of trying to pull people together, I was the right person to convene it. I didn't realize they realized that, but praise God, I'm glad they did. But I tell you what this study did, it identified some things that I know that we need to work on. And so as I go to the table, as I looked at this, it shows me my agenda I need to put together, where I need to pull some things, because they were very, very clear that we're moving too slowly. This is so very interesting that they put that down, because I want you to know that my hours have actually been cut in half from what I had before. But you have to understand, I have a commitment. We're going to get it done. And so I've already began to pull in some of our members of our HEC, and literally bring it to the table, having to go to sessions with me so they can, again, to take on some of this ownership, because we need to infuse it into the everyday operations of our community, because we got to live past any monies. We got to infuse it into the normal operations of our community. And they felt that also too, you can go on to the next one too, would you please? I'm sorry, I'm just talking past you there. that they feel that we don't have enough underserved at the table. And so we're going to have to work on that. And you can see they said funding, diversity, and we have to have better communications. I think one of the biggest things I learned from this entire study was that our people felt that, yeah, they said, if we're not coming to this meeting, one of them told us, if I'm not sure, if I were not a member, that I would not know what's going on. I don't see or hear enough about our work or events outside of this committee. That has to change. So we have got to make an extra effort to make sure that we get that information out. And I've taken that very seriously about how do we create that conversation at the table, how we're going to disseminate this information. Because if our community can't grow from the work we do, then we wasted our time. We're trying to change the culture in this community, since we were one of the highest obesity counties in the entire state. And we want to change the customs and the thinking and the actions of people in our community. If we don't disseminate the information, we fail. So to me, of all the things I learned from this sustainability self-assessment, it made us look internally at what we might be doing well, and then look at some areas where we need to make some improvement. I think we've been doing a pretty good job, because I saw the powerful things that Dr. Carter was talking about, and then Brian as well, the powerful things you're doing. And so it makes me want to branch out and do a little bit more if you've heard what some of the things you're doing. So we don't have like a meeting place like Dr. Carter. They have offices and so forth like that. But we utilize our organizations and the CBOs around the table, and we go and visit and go to some of those places, kind of move things around. But at the end of the day, we get the job done. And as I was telling in a document I just filled out, you said, what are some of the big ones we've had? I think the biggest one we've had, that if people want to find out where to find people from diversified areas to come and be part of whatever you're doing, they call the HEC. Because we're going to find the people you need to go to your organization or to help you do whatever you need to do. We are able to do that, and we're being known for that. And I think that's a good thing, but we do need to make sure that we're communicating these great things we're doing. So that's my short presentation today.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you to our three presenters doing some amazing work, talking about the successes and challenges, right? Hopefully that both kind of resonated with folks on the call and can maybe get some good takeaways from what you've heard already. But let's go ahead and open it up to questions. So folks in the audience, our virtual audience, if you have any questions for our panelists today, please feel free to toss it in the chat and or come off of mute and ask some questions, things that maybe you and or members of your council have been grappling with, advice, anything like that. We've got some time for that now.
So I have a quick question. We're not grappling with it. This is Jason. We're not grappling with this, but I forgot the name of the young lady that just spoke. I'm so sorry.
Joyce.
Joyce.
Yes, Joyce. Please forgive me, Joyce. I know you I see you everywhere.
Yes, say yes when I see yes, Jason.
So when you were identifying the strengths of your HEC council, did you have a tool where you kind of looked at the strengths, or did you just know, or did you just kind of know like, hey, this person's really good at grant writing, or this person's really good at community speaking or things like that? Like, how did you identify those strengths of your HEC members?
That's an interesting. I'm 75 years old, and as I told you, I've been a mayor. I'm a pastor, and I'm part of pastor. I kind of know people in this community, and I kind of know their strengths and the things they bring to the table. And that's what I went for immediately when I was hired. I knew those people, and I began to call them and bring them to the table. And you know what? Most of them came. And so that's how I identified people like, for instance, we have people from the LGBTQ community, tribal organizations, the Latino community, Catholic diocese in their Hispanic ministry area, all those people. And also we, like I said, we went to tribal organizations and went out to the rural areas to get people. I just kind of had I just had my tentacles out there and I was able to bring them together. And then once we got to the table, we said, who else needs to be here at this table? And they helped me then to go from there to add additional people to the table.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Joyce, I love that visual of the tentacles because we're all in it, right? All sectors. We can't do it alone. So yeah, love that. Love that. Any other questions?
And I think that especially when we did the focus groups, I thought that was a powerful piece. We, we have African American general population, and then we had African American pastors that we did focus groups with. That was very powerful. We did the same thing with the Latino community, LGBTQ, senior citizens, homeless population, rural, you name it, we did it. And so their perspectives, we actually had it professionally transcribed. All of those focus groups were professionally transcribed. And we sat as a team, for days, where we began to decipher what were people trying to tell us. And when I think most of all the people said to us, this is the first time somebody's wanted to listen to what we had to say. To me, that was a powerful piece. And we did listen to what we said. And after we had gathered all that data and put it together, put a report, we did do a press conference, which was well attended by our TV stations and newspapers and other things to try to disseminate that out to the community. We tried to put that out there. And now we're working on integrating all of that into the Be Well initiatives, the various groups that the health department has infused. And that is one thing that people says, we're concerned that can we sustain the ability of the things that we've learned, that are they actually going to go into the framework of changing how services are delivered to people? That is a question they ask me. Our hope is, yes, that's going to happen, but we're going to keep working at it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Brian, I saw you came off mute.
Yeah, Joyce, you mentioned, reaching out to the rural population. That's one area we've struggled with here in Kent County. And I know that you're well connected in your community in Saginaw. But I just want to ask you two things. Like, A, was it hard to bring them to the table? And B, have there been any challenges mixing those from the rural populations with those from the urban populations? Or what we kind of ran into was different belief systems. Some people from rural communities didn't want to come if there were certain topics going to be discussed. And so I just want to hear from you to see, or any other people out there, if kind of what the tricks were to get them to the table, and if there have been anything that has come up since you kind of mixed the rural and urban population.
Well, one of the first things that we did is we made one of them our community members that we paid. So they did a lot of that outreach for us, and make those inroads. And when we had our rural session out there in I think it was Merrill Park, they helped lead that and organize it. And because remember I told you we had community members who had skills, so we trained all of us facilitators. She was one of those people we trained, along with our university assistant dean of the College of Social Work, and they went out there and they did sessions out in the rural area. But getting those, who are them, who go out and reach those individuals and get their perspective. But we're surprised, and I know Tracy may want to chime in on this, but our findings were that the people in the inner city and the rural area thought quite alike about issues. We were shocked. We thought there would be extreme differences in how people saw things, but it was not. They lined up so closely together. It was unbelievable. It was a shocker. It made it easy for the findings and putting the plans together and so forth. But we were shocked at that. We didn't expect that.
I just had a brief comment, and Joyce, thank you for sharing that. When I'm thinking about the communities and the people that come together, and this may be funny, but we lure them in with food and free stuff first.
Where do you get the money for the food? Because
We get people to donate it.
MPHI did.
Yeah, we get people to
Can't-
donate it, or people, potluck it, or just, give them just some coffee and a donut. And then, we listen to, depending on the medium, like for our radio show and for our community empowerment, because they're so strategic with topics that affect the community, they have the opportunity to share their voices during those times. So we provide many mediums for them to share
Understood.
their concerns and voices during the course of a week. And so we just provide those opportunities, and they speak up, and we take note of that, and then we see what can we do to support what that person is asking about, how can our councils address those needs based on their questions or what their needs are. So we do a lot of that.
That's good. But that food is a factor, most definitely.
Hi, Kelvin.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Kelvin.
I'm thankful for all of your presentations. I was driving, so I would like to get those I think they will be in Daplet, right? And so I will review them. But I was one of those individuals who wanted to understand how you guys who rated at mastery got there. And so and one of the reasons why I was wondering how you guys got there, because it's one thing like for the council to have mastery, and then there's one thing for the BBO to have mastery. And so when the question I'm proposing to y'all is this mastery level funding for the Health Equity Council, or is this mastery level funding for the BBO?
At least from my perspective, these are responses from the Health Equity Council itself. This is how they see their progress, and how you said the question, how you accomplish that is they're included in everything. When we did many grants, we had 5 or 6 of them sitting on the committee to help review those grants and how we allocated those funds. I'll be sitting at the meeting. I might chair the meeting. They'll say, no, Mrs. Seals, Joyce, no, we're not doing. They will override me and say, look, I make this motion in support. Now you carry it on through. And guess what I do? Okay, because when they take ownership, when you empower people, know that when you empower them, sometimes they don't agree with how you want to get things done. But at the end of the day, they feel great about the fact that I honored the fact that they wanted to do it a certain way. And that's exactly what we did.
For DABO, the funding's for the council, but our council members participate in everything that DABO does. Yes, they have their own focus group that they deal with because they're a council member, but they are immersed into what DABO does as well. And so they're that voice during those times when we're having events, or when we need someone at the table. And they even come to DABO board meetings, the organizational board meetings, and provide information, voice their opinion, talk about their communities. And when we have our monthly meetings with the council, they talk about the challenges that they're having. It's always funding. It's always at the top of the list. But they're so passionate about the work that they continue. They do it anyway, and they know that they are supporting their communities. We have one council member who she's a judge, and she works for the courts, and she had a special session in the courts lobby for employees and people who work there to come and get their blood pressure checked and come and get their COVID vaccinations. And she understood that, you know, we didn't have the funding for her to provide them with a full meal, but we got a partner to provide them with gift cards so that they could go buy a coffee or that they could go buy a lunch. So we try to, you know, work with all of our partners to provide, because people like food and free stuff. And I think with ours is consistency and continue to build on that and listen to the voices and just being so passionate about it. Starts from the top and everyone lends a hand. My role may be this at the organization, but I know if this is needed, I'm going to do that as well. So it's kind of like a partnership.
And this is Tracy. I would just like to include, I'm with Saginaw with Joyce, that you know, many of the organizations that sit around the Health Equity Council table are also partners of the Be Well Saginaw. And so there's a lot of information sharing and collaboration and communication that happens between those entities. And when we're sitting, you know, especially when we're sitting around our Be Well advisory board, you know, Joyce is part of that group. She brings to the table, you know, all the initiatives and things that the HEC is working on, and provides updates and reports and asks of the advisory board if we need to, because the advisory board, it consists of like the CEOs, the top people that can make decisions on their organizations, which again are those 13 of them that sit around the HEC as well. And so there is a lot of communication that flows back and forth. And when, you know, when we're talking about things at the Be Well Saginaw part, which is what Joyce was referring to as like our health improvement plan and stuff like that, what falls under, you know, the Health Equity Council is right there on the forefront of people's minds as to, okay, well, maybe we should take this to the Health Equity Council and see what they say. Can we get a group of Health Equity Council members to, you know, look at this, verify this, vet it for us? And, you know, so we're constantly trying to go back and forth there too. And when it comes to the funding, you know, the health department is the BBO and received the funding for it. But when we find, like, the Health Equity Council has found grants that they've sent us, and if we can apply for it, we will. We always include the Health Equity Council. They have final say over what the budget does. I might create the budget, but I share it with them, and they have final say as to where the funds are going and how much is being spent where. Sometimes I have to be mean and be like, nah, we can't do that because then it doesn't fit this way. But, you know, for the most part, you know, we are fully transparent on the BBO end with funding, with everything that we have to do from an administration side, as well as for them for their project side. So everybody knows what's going on. So, and we're continuing to look for funding, and we're continuing to have some behind the scenes conversations as to our sustainability and how we can move forward. Nothing has really been brought to the council yet, just because we're just trying to figure some options out. So we're I don't want to say we're in the beginning stages because we've been thinking about it, but nothing's really come from anything yet. But it's not going away. We're gonna have the Health Equity Council no matter what, Joyce. The Health Equity Council itself is not going away. How it looks might be different.
Excellent. Thank you all for that. And I really think the three presentations today just kind of, you could see the connections there, right? Of opportunities of how might we communicate more and get the word out, and looking at different communication modes and efforts that DABO is working on, right? And how do we look for funding to then be able to support purchasing food with other funds to bring folks in and other incentives, right? So I really hope that folks are seeing additional partnerships around to continue to ask these questions of how might you do this, and what did this look like and feel like for you and your council. So I really appreciate our three panelists today and all the great work that you do. Calvin, I see your hand up one moment. We'll get to you. And just wanted to let folks know that we'll continue to ask folks on the call if you would be interested in sharing your strengths, and continue to feature other councils and some of the lessons learned, as well as identify additional tools that could be helpful in moving some of the work forward, whether that's some power analysis or looking at some of the tools that had been identified maybe a little while back, bring those back in and see how we might dust them off and use them towards these sustainability efforts. So Going to you, Calvin, before we head out.
I just wanted to say thank you to Joyce and also Tracy for adding to the clarification there, and Dr. Carter and Brian as well. I would like to reach out to each of you, because the one thing that we all have been consistently saying is we want the community to lead the work, right? And so if there's funding there, how do we get the community to lead the work? And so I would like to have conversations with you guys, because I understand now the many ways that we can obtain funding. So thank you all for your presentation.
Thanks, Calvin.
Well, thank
You
you.
are welcome.
everyone. I hope you have a great rest of the day. It was great to see y'all on the call, and I'm sure I'll be in your inbox soon, and maybe with a few more asks. But thank you all so much. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll put my email in the chat, and if not, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.